4A Sectional 20. Some intriguing matchups as well. Jay County.
Hey, hey.
Oh, the Fighting Millspaws picked up a 1-point victory last week against Logansport. Don't count them out, but they have to travel to a Wayne team that hung 62 points last week against Columbia City. I mean, just a level of athleticism I don't think Columbia City had seen. Yeah. They had over 40 on them at a halftime. Devonair Kelsaw. You know, when you have 324 yards on the ground, 6 total touchdowns on just like 11 carries.
Do the math. What's that per carry?
I don't know, but it's a lot.
Carry the one in that.
It's like 30-ish. So when you are Jay County, I mean, how can they even slow down what Wayne has? Because, again, we've seen Wayne start to peak perhaps at the end of the season.
This is a game that Wayne should win if they don't shoot themselves in the foot, and I think they should win convincingly. You talked about Columbia City just not being able to match up with the athletes of Wayne. Same story this Friday. Jay County cannot match up with the athletes of Wayne. As long as Wayne doesn't shoot themselves in the foot with penalties and turnovers, which we've seen them do this season at times, the Generals should be going comfortably to the sectional championship next week.
Brandon Young also getting his feet wet during the season as a starter.
Putting Craig Young a little bit at the Wildcat here and there. I mean, I like it. I think Wayne, I felt like they needed to get the ball into Craig Young's hands more.
I agree.
I didn't think he was touching the ball nearly enough. I mean, this kid is a Division I prospect as a junior in football and basketball and track, and I didn't feel like he was touching the ball enough. And I think anytime you can get the ball in Craig Young's hands, the better you're off. And I think they're really starting to trend that way.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. Really, the game that to focus in this section is going to be New Haven at Bishop Dwenger. I say at Bishop Dwenger. It's going to be played at St. Francis, 7 o'clock on Friday nights, as Zollner Stadium will be occupied for the second week in a row by the Concordia Cadets. But if you're New Haven, you had to feel good about the way that they played last week in terms of being able to limit that Leo offense. Yeah. We talk about, you know, Bonner, Grahovac, Gauze, Restivo. You kind of know all the names for Leo, and they held him to 7 points last week. I think that's what you're hanging your hat on as you go into this week, because Dwenger, we've seen have some struggles on a Friday night moving the ball offensively against the better teams. So.
Yeah, you touched on it. The most impressive thing out of New Haven last week was the defense. That was a Leo team that dropped 33 on them earlier in the year in a New Haven victory, and to shut them down the way they did, very impressive. We felt New Haven maybe was showing some cracks there the last couple weeks of the regular season, and they proved us all wrong. They just came out and dominated that game from the beginning, and we felt maybe Leo makes a run similar to what New Haven did in the regular season game. Didn't happen. New Haven was just superb, and if they can keep up the play, they got a legit shot at knocking off the Saints.
On the flip side, Dwenger played well on both sides of the football last week. 41 points against Southside. We know Southside has some guys athletically. That defense has really been more of the constant, I guess, for the Saints this season. In terms of excellence on Friday night, they only give up 7 points to the Archers. So how do you see kind of Dwenger's defense matching up against that New Haven offense, where New Haven's passing game we've seen play well, we've seen struggle at times, but Stephen Owens has been pretty solid for them. He had 122 yards last week on the ground for New Haven.
Yeah, after that blowout loss to Homestead for Bishop Dwenger, where that defense just didn't play well at all, I think it's been showing incremental growth. Now, granted, they give up 34 points to Snyder, but I don't think that's anything to sneeze at. I mean, you know, Snyder's Snyder. So that Bishop Dwenger defense has made incremental steps throughout the latter half of the season. And it gets a big challenge on Friday. And I think whereas earlier in the year we wouldn't have thought they could challenge and slow down that New Haven offense with their talent, especially on the outside, I think this is a Dwenger defense that can match up and win some battles and keep this game lower scoring, and that helps out Bishop Dwenger, I think.
I'm really intrigued by the D-backs of Dwenger going against the receivers of New Haven, because we've seen guys like Zell Banks and J.C. Gardner make plays. And then I think you have a very underrated defensive backfield for Bishop Dwenger that's gained a lot of experience this season. I think that's kind of one of the matchups to watch.
Yeah, for sure. And they've been challenged by Jai Wright and challenged by Michael Hoppert and Jack Miguel. So they've been through the wars, so to speak. These guys have been challenged. Now, all due respect to New Haven, those three teams, three players we mentioned, are challenging that back end of that defense more than what New Haven can do. So they know what to expect. It'll be just all be about execution out at St. Francis.
How do you see this one playing out at Bishop Darcy Stadium on Friday?
I can't pick against Bishop Dwenger in the playoffs in a game like this. I just feel like the experience that they have, the discipline that they have, puts them ahead of most teams when they play them in these situations. And I just feel like Dwenger has the edge in that respect.
I know you picked against New Haven last week.
Well, keep it up.
They were excited. I'm sure they're happy to be picked against this week. So there you go, right there.
It's the Angola thing.
Yeah, it's true.
Angola.
It's true.